Hey, you guys, welcome back to Rocket City Yardstead. I don't know if you can tell, but we are at my table in the kitchen. I have a whole bunch of seed packs in front of me, and I thought maybe we could talk seeds today. I have been going through all of my seeds, looking at the rest of the things that I want to start inside before we get to the time to plant outside. And I don't think I realized I wanted to plant so many things. So I may have to, I don't know. I'm not sure I have room to plant all the things inside. I have some thoughts on how that might happen. I need your opinions on that. But first, maybe let's just talk about some of the things that I'm going to grow. So I live in a place that has so many pests, lots of squash vine borers, lots of squash bugs, leaf-footed bugs, stink bugs, basically all the things in that family. And so I have a really hard time with squash. And so the ones that I want to get started in the house, so I have a little bit of a head start, are Zucchino rampicante. If you have never heard of this, it will climb. It's a vining squash, and you can eat it either as a winter squash or as a summer squash. You can pick them young and they're nice and tender. And I probably have some pictures. If I can find a picture, I'll throw one in here of the one year that they were just the most amazing looking. But they are in a family called Moschata. And so they handle the vine borers better. And they have lasted longer for me in the past than just like a traditional zucchini or yellow squash. So I always try and put these on one of my trellises just so we have some kind of squash coming in from the garden if the vine borers get everything else. But I'm also trying zucchini and yellow squash, and I'm growing a variety called Ford Hook zucchini. I have not actually had a ton of luck with zucchini just in general, but I used to watch a channel. I still watch sometimes, but she moved. She used to live fairly close to me, and she said Ford Hook was the most prolific variety that she grew. And so, given our proximity, I thought it was the one to try. So, I have tried it, but the vine borers have always gotten to it before I could actually get zucchini off of it. So, we're going to try again this year. I think they're going to end up going in my new garden beds if I can get them all set up in time. Um, and hopefully, maybe we're not dealing with larvae and things like that. And then the other thing I'm going to grow is early prolific straight neck squash. We love yellow squash in our house. And so I just want some yellow squash. And I just go with the most basic one there is there. Um, if you happen to be North Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, Southern Tennessee, when do you guys start your pumpkins? Because I've always kind of just started them in May, but I'm wondering if I need to start later if I want things to last longer through the winter. I think I'm just going to plant winter squash outside and not start those seeds ahead of time. But I got some seeds called Dutch fork pumpkin. If you watch other channels in the gardening realm, you probably have heard of those. I know Jess at Roots and Refuge Farm grows them, and I know what's the channel? Sage and Stone. They grow them as well. And the thing that I've been so impressed with is just like when everything else seems to get hit by the squash bugs and the vine borers, that those seem to stand up to it. And so I've had a really hard time with winter squash. And so those are the ones I want to plant. I'm just unsure if I should wait a little bit longer to plant them or if they should go in as soon as we can plant out. So let me know what you guys think, especially if you're in my gardening area. But let's see, what else do we want to talk about? I am going to grow 4 different kinds of basil. I love a good old standard Genovese basil. Just, we need a bunch of that freeze dried because I like to put it in Italian dishes and it tastes wonderful freeze dried. So that's on the list. Dark opal basil. I'll be honest with you guys, I'm not a big fan culinarily of the purple basils. They kind of end up turning kind of brown when you cook with them, but I love to cut them for my flower bouquets in the summer. And so I grow this just for that. And then my bouquets have a basil smell too, so that's kind of nice. On the topic of smell, last year I got this free seed pack from Baker Creek Seeds. It's blue spice basil. This is one I would never have bought, never considered on my own, and I'm so grateful they sent it to me as the free seed pack. It says heavy fragrance with spicy vanilla overtones. And let me tell you, you walk through the garden when this stuff is in there. I had a ton of plants last year because it germinated so well. And it really does sort of take you to a tropical paradise. Um, I spent a summer in Southeast Asia when I was in college. I taught English for the summer, and it sort of reminded me of a lot of the aromas from there, and it just kind of took me back. So I guess my palate is not super refined when it comes to basil. When we ate it, it just tasted like basil to me, but that aroma in the garden was just killer. It was so good. So I will plant it just so I can smell that as I walk through the garden. And then the last basil that I am going to plant is called cardinal basil. It has these huge, huge flower heads. I actually got to go to Baker Creek last summer. We were in Branson just like recently, and we went up and we toured the Laura Ingalls Wilder home in Mansfield, and we went over to Baker Creek. And if you ever get the chance to go to Baker Creek, even if all it is going into the seed shop, the lady who was working, she was so kind and chatty and helpful. And I was telling her about how I like to pick basils, like this opal basil, to put in my flower bouquets. And she said, "Oh, wait." And she came out from around behind the cash register and she walked me over to this basil and said, "If you like to put basils in your bouquets, you have got to get some of this." So I got some, and we're going to grow it this year. And I'm so excited to see these huge purple flowers from this cardinal basil. So let's see. The next thing that is food related, I think it's the only other thing that's food related, is cucumbers. I have 5 varieties of cucumbers we're going to grow this year. We will be swimming in cucumbers if the cucumbers do well this year. It's kind of hit or miss with the cucumbers, whether they do well or not. Last year, putting the shade cloth up made a massive difference on my cucumbers. They lasted probably until almost August. I would have to look back at the videos, but yeah, I'd never had cucumbers that tasted good last so long as they did last year. But we like a variety, and so I have 5 varieties of cucumbers. We are going to grow green dragon burpless cucumber. I just really like that thin-skinned, no spines on the outside kind of cucumber for fresh eating. It's my favorite. We're going to grow one called White Wonder. My mom loves a white cucumber. I cannot think of the name of it at the moment. And the last 2 years, my seeds didn't germinate. And so I think they just must not be viable anymore. But I saw this one at the store and I went ahead and grabbed it because it looks very similar to that cucumber, even though they're not the same. Then we are going to grow the Armenian cucumber. These are actually a melon if you don't know, but people eat them like a cucumber. And they tend to last longer into the season because they're a melon. So that's why we grow those, in case the other ones just peter out in the heat. We're going to grow a Boston pickling cucumber, just good old fashioned traditional pickling cucumber, because I like to make pickle relish and bread and butter pickles and even some dill pickles. So want to have plenty of those. And then the last one we're going to grow, I tried growing actually my very first gardening year, and I did not understand. I was a new gardener and I had no idea that cucumbers really don't like it hot. And I live in Alabama. We get hot pretty early and stay hot pretty late into the year. And so my cucumbers were really bitter and really gross. And I assumed it was the variety of cucumber. You know, there may be some element of that. I really don't know. Some cucumbers might hold up to the heat better than others as far as the bitterness goes. But I love gherkins, you know, the tiny little sweet pickled gherkins. And so we're going to try these cucumbers again for the first time since my first gardening year. Our first garden was in 19, so 6 years ago, but it's Parisian pickling cucumbers. And the description that Baker Creek gives on these is that they are the old French gherkin or cornichon pickler, great for making tiny sweet pickles, which is exactly what I want to do. And the National Center for Home Food Preservation has a recipe on their website for making sweet gherkins. So I'm hoping that those are going to do fantastic for me this year. So those are all of the food related things that I am wanting to get started here in the next day or so. The only thing that's sort of questionable is, what do you guys think about the winter squash? Should I be planting it, you know, as soon as we can, or should I be waiting until midsummer? I've seen people talking about waiting because they want to use their pumpkins for fall decorations. I'm more growing them for food, and so I don't know if that matters. But now we're on to flowers. I have a lot of flowers. This is what has gotten me into trouble with, do I have the space for starting them ahead of time or not? So I'm going to take a sip of my tea. Oh, I need to heat that up. And then we can talk about flowers. So I have this Thunbergia. I may have mentioned this at some point, but it is a climber. It's also called Black-Eyed Susan vine. And I do want to get this started. It says you can start it. I'm probably a little late on this, but it says you can start it indoors 8 weeks before last frost. So I am definitely behind on this, but we're still going to give it a try. I just think it'll be really beautiful. I want to put it on an arch in the new garden area that we're putting in. So I'm going to start just a couple of these so I can put it on either side and it be kind of like a beautiful entryway. Then I grew some of these last year. Celosia pampas plume. I always think these kind of look like bright, colorful ice cream cones, but we have a fire pit in the back garden area. If you watch any of my garden videos last year, you will have seen it. But it's not in a good location for actually having a fire. So last year I filled it with soil and I put some landscape fabric on it and I planted these in there because I think they sort of look a little bit like flames. You know, the colors are yellow and red and pink. And so I just thought that was kind of a fun little whimsical thing. And I want to do that again. And then I got another kind of celosia. It was one of the new ones that Johnny Seeds introduced. It's called Shimmer OG. I will post a picture somewhere on the screen here of what this looks like, but I just thought the colors were really pretty. But I am all about the bouquets to bring in the house in the summer, as well as just beautiful things out in the garden. So they caught my eye and I got them. We're going to try and plant some. If you happen to be around last year, I planted all 3 of these cosmos last year and I have not added any more. We have ones called Cupcake White. They're just so delicate looking. Their petals sort of look like the cupcake wrapper. And I just thought that was really fun and whimsical. And then I have one called Double Click Snow Puff. These were so beautiful last year. I thought these were so pretty on the picture on the Johnny Seed website. And then when I actually grew them in the garden, I love them even more in person. So we're going to grow them again. And then we are also going to grow apricot lemonade cosmos. These were so pretty once we got some last year, but they took a really long time to flower, which is why I want to get them started in the house. Because even a few weeks, I think, will make a difference on how many flowers we get. So now let's talk nasturtiums. I am a little bit obsessed with the Alaska dwarf nasturtiums. I just love nasturtiums for the shape of their leaves. They're so unique and so different. You're never going to mistake them for something else, right? Because they have that very unique leaf shape. But the Alaska ones have variegated leaves that are beautiful even when there aren't any flowers on them. Where I live here, it is so hot in the summer, and nasturtiums actually don't really like it very hot, that I tend to get flowers early in the spring if I get the nasturtiums to germinate soon enough. And then they just sort of hold on through the course of the summer. They just sort of suck it up and they look really sad. And then once the temperature cools off, they get gorgeous again. So I like to have the beautiful foliage because we don't really get the flowers over most of the summer. So dwarf Alaskan nasturtiums. And then I will look up a picture of these too, because this is a drawing. But I saw these on M.I. Gardner's website, these peach melba nasturtiums, and I thought they were really beautiful. So I want to grow some of these too. I am hoping this year that I will be able to get more nasturtium flowers because I'm planning on planting them, at least some of them, under my okra. I read that that was a really good place for them. And so I have a plan for some of my new beds that I'm going to plant okra in those beds. And then on one side of the bed, I'm going to plant nasturtiums. And on the other side, I'm going to plant my cantaloupes and just let them trail out of the bed onto the landscape fabric. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm hoping that's going to let the nasturtiums have a little bit of a break from the heat and the sun and that they'll bloom more. Okay, so the last thing that I'm growing from seeds. I might need an intervention here. I have so many different varieties. I love zinnias. They are my favorite flower. They come in so many colors and shapes and sizes, and I just love them. So let's take a look at the many zinnias that I'm planning on planting. Maybe I should clarify here. If you watched last year, I have like a 24-foot long, I guess I have two 12-foot long grow bags that are lined up together. So they make 24 feet long. And that was full of zinnias and basils last year. And I'm still planning on planting that the same way. But with the new garden space that we're going to have, I'm wanting to dot more flowers around actually in the garden this year. So that's part of why I want to plant so many flowers, because I just want a little pop of color and flowers everywhere. So let's look at these varieties here. I have queen lime blush zinnias. These are just one of the most beautiful flowers I think I've ever grown. They are absolutely my favorite. And I've always wanted to grow more of the queen lime zinnias. Last year I grew some queen lime red zinnias. They were beautiful. I didn't love them as much as I love the queen lime blush, but there are a lot of different kinds of queen lime zinnias. And so this year I got the Queenie formula mix from Johnny Seeds, and it has, a variety of the different Queenie lime zinnias in it. So I'm going to plant a fair number of those, and hopefully we get a good variety of the different colors. Then I have Oklahoma salmon. I grew these last year. I just loved the color of them. I loved the shape of the zinnia. If you've watched other videos, you've heard me mention my parents are from Oklahoma, and so sort of fun to have a flower named Oklahoma. These are new to me. This is another one of those Johnny Seed, brand new this year, couldn't pass it up kind of flowers for me. They just were really pretty colors. I'll put the pictures up here on the screen, but I just wanted to give them a try. And so we're going to see how we like them. The next one is a Cinderella peach zinnia. I grew these last year, and the flowers that I did get were so fun and whimsical, but I had them in a grow bag and they just did not thrive. They were in a grow bag up closer to my house and not back in the main garden area. And to be perfectly honest, I just didn't take care of them as well as I should have. And so I want to give them another try and see if we can keep them really healthy, because I just really loved how different the flowers looked. Then I have an envy zinnia. This one is like a solid lime green zinnia. And I just think they might be a really nice pop of contrast in my bouquets. So that's why I'm going to grow those. And then the very last one is the cactus flower zinnia mix. I just really love the shape of these. They're so different compared to the other ones. They're a little bit wild looking, and I just love them. And I have had some amazing colors out of these as well that I just really loved. So that is all of my zinnias. Now here's where I need some advice, guys. I do not have enough room in the trays I have been growing everything else in. I'll bring one in here and show you. So this is the size I've been growing everything in. And ideally what I would like to plant all of my flowers of basil and everything in. However, I do not have enough space under my grow lights, or I actually don't have enough trays. So let me show you the other options I have, because I would like to know what you guys think. Other option that I have is these. They are burpee seed starting trays. They're a little bit dirty, so I don't want to pull them out too much. But I have this one. This one has 36 holes. They're pretty small. And then I have this one that has 16 holes, and they are bigger. But I'm thinking that maybe I could plant my basils in the one that has the 36 holes. But so we are only about 3 weeks from being able to plant outside. And I'm thinking that basil plants start out pretty small, and I could probably do them in this tray and it would be fine. But if you've grown basil from seeds, I've only ever grown them in the other size cups. So I don't really know how small I could get away with. It would be great if I could do them in there. And then I'm wondering, I also thought maybe the nasturtiums could go in maybe here. I don't know, you guys. I'm just spitballing because I don't want to have to wait on starting seeds, but I only have so much space under my grow lights. I only have so many trays. I don't want to go spend more money. I'm sure a lot of you can relate. So just let me know what you think. I think that the basils would probably work in here. That's my question, guys. I really don't know if that's a good idea or if I'll be wasting seeds because it won't be enough space for their roots. So if you guys have any opinions, please let me know. Also about the winter squash, what you think I should do there. I guess I could always plant some out early and then plant more later if I needed to. But that is what I'm going to be getting started here in the next couple days. So if you have favorite flowers or herbs that you love to grow, or a cucumber variety that you really love also, I'm always interested in new cucumbers, even though we're already growing so many. Let me know what they are, because we might like to try them. So thanks for hanging out with me today. I look forward to your advice, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I'll see you next time. Bye.